I've been using Claude Code every day. And for the first 6 months, I had no idea these features existed. 27 of them. Hiding in plain sight, in the command palette, the config files, the agent layer. Most users find 2 or 3 by accident. This is all 27, in the order that'll make them stick. Starting with the one that changes how you think before you type a single prompt. 6 categories. Mindset first, that's the one most people skip. Then context control, the Claude.md stack, verification habits, multi-agent and parallel work, and the advanced automation layer. Each category builds on the one before it. You can jump to any group, chapters are in the description, but the mindset section is 60 seconds and changes everything that follows. Most people use Claude like a vending machine. Put in a prompt, take out an output, accept whatever comes out. Same tool used differently produces 10 times the result. The shift is simple. Treat Claude like a junior developer on your team, not a search engine. That means giving structure, a clear brief, constraints, examples, questions you expect answered. Then you stay in the loop. You push back. You run verify steps mid-task. You ask what assumptions did you make before you ship anything. The vending machine model gets you one generic output with no feedback loop. The junior dev model gets you better output at every step and a Claude that finishes the task rather than handing you a first draft dressed up as a final answer. Context is a finite resource, and most users burn it without knowing. Think of it as a fuel gauge. 0 to 60% is the green zone. Run/compact here to compress the session and keep working. 60 to 80 is amber. Quality is degrading. Claude starts losing the early context that shaped your instructions. Above 80 is red. Claude is slow, forgetful, and starts contradicting itself. /compact compresses the context window but keeps the session alive. Use it when your task continues. /clear wipes everything and starts fresh. Use it when you're starting a genuinely new task. Keep the window light. Compact often. Clear when you need to. Every Claude Code project should start with /init. Run it in any directory and Claude reads your codebase, figures out the structure, the stack, the key files, and writes a Claude.md file for you. That file becomes the system prompt for every conversation in that project. It tells Claude what the project is, what conventions to follow, what to never do. The alternative, starting every session from scratch, re-explaining your stack, reteaching your naming conventions, costs 20 minutes a week and produces inconsistent output. /init takes 30 seconds. Edit the output, add your specific rules, and every future session starts with Claude already knowing your code base. Once you have a Claude.md, you have leverage. 4 things belong in it that most developers never add. First, the forbidden list, what Claude must never do. Import this library, touch this file, change this config. Second, naming conventions that aren't obvious from the code. Third, the commands your team runs most, the test command, the lint command, the deploy script. Fourth, the tone. Is Claude writing commit messages, PR descriptions? It should sound like your team. The mistake most people make is writing Claude.md once and forgetting it. Write pattern. Every time you catch Claude making a mistake that context would have prevented, add a line. Treat it as a living document. Claude stops early. That's not a bug, it's the default behavior for any agent when no verification step forces it to continue. The fix is a self-verification checklist embedded in your task prompt. Instead of build the form, add validation, add error messages, you write, build the form, then verify, does each field validate? Then add error messages, then verify, are all states handled? Then ship. Without those checkpoints, Claude hands you step 2 and calls it done. With them, Claude checks its own work before moving on. The formula, build, verify, confirm, ship. Drop a verify step after anything that could silently fail. Single highest leverage prompt change most developers haven't made. You run the same prompts repeatedly. Deploy check. PR review, code explanation for new team member. Custom skills let you save any workflow as a named command and invoke it with a single /. They live in .claude/skills as markdown files. Write one once and it runs the same way every time, same instructions, same structure, same output format. /commands are the quick version, short aliases for common prompts, defined in settings. Skills are richer. They can include multi-step instructions and context injection. Together, they are the difference between retyping the same 200-word prompt every day and running /review and getting the same correct output from memory. Every time you wait for Claude to finish and then manually run a test, you're doing work a hook should do. Hooks are shell commands that fire automatically on Claude Code events. After a tool call, run your linter. Before a commit, run your test suite. After a file write, trigger a type check. You configure them once in settings and they run without you watching. The workflow: give Claude a multi-step task, set a hook that runs your tests on file change, and walk away. Come back when Claude is done. If the tests pass, you're finished. If they fail, Claude sees the output and keeps going. This is the hook most developers set up once and then wonder how they ever shipped without it. Subagents are parallel Claude sessions you orchestrate from one conversation. You spawn a subagent, give it a task, and your main session keeps working. The killer use case: any task that splits cleanly into independent subtasks. Writing tests for 3 separate modules, reviewing 4 files for different concerns, researching 5 competing libraries simultaneously. Without subagents, those run serially. You wait for each one. With subagents, they run in parallel and all return in the time the slowest one takes. The caveat: subagents work best when tasks share no state. For genuinely independent work, subagents are a straightforward multiplier on throughput. Git Worktrees give you the same multiplier at the repository level. Instead of 1 Claude session on one branch, you run 3 Claude sessions on 3 separate feature branches simultaneously, each in its own working tree, each with its own context, each making progress without blocking the others. 1 Git Worktree command per branch, 1 Claude session per worktree. The workflow scales linearly. 3 sessions doing genuinely separate work takes the same wall clock time as one. The pattern that works: 1 session handles the main feature, a second writes the tests, a third prepares the documentation. Done when all 3 finish, in the time the main feature takes. Not every task needs the same model, and that's the feature most developers ignore until they see their bill. Haiku is the fastest and cheapest. Code explanation, summarization, short questions, any task where speed beats depth. Sonnet is the default and handles 90% of real development work. Opus is for genuinely hard problems, complex architectural decisions, subtle security reviews, multi-step reasoning that fails at lower capability. Fast mode, toggled with /fast, wraps Opus in a higher throughput pipeline. Matching the model to the task is the difference between a 10-minute Opus session and a 30-second Haiku that returns the same answer. 2 prompt habits that change output quality immediately. The first: link, don't paste. Instead of copying 500 lines of code into the prompt, reference the file. Claude Code has file system access, point it to the file. Pasted code loses its context: what imports it, what calls it, what tests cover it. A file reference preserves all of that. The second: challenge the first output. Every Claude response is a first draft. The response you get after "are you sure this handles the edge case where the user is logged out?" is better than the first, always. 10 seconds. Most developers skip it. The developers who ship the fewest bugs don't. 2 more habits that prevent the failure modes that waste the most time. Kill drift immediately. Drift is when Claude starts solving a slightly different problem than the one you gave it because the context has accumulated enough that the original instruction is diluted. You'll notice it when the output is technically correct but off target. The fix is not to keep prompting and hope it converges. Stop. Compact or clear. Restate the task cleanly. The second: use screenshots for visual debugging. Instead of describing a layout bug in words, which Claude interprets incorrectly half the time, attach a screenshot. Claude is multimodal. 3 seconds versus 3 rounds of misunderstood text. Claude's memory system lets you persist facts across sessions. User memories store how you like to work. Project memories store context about ongoing decisions and known constraints. Feedback memories store corrections so Claude doesn't repeat the same mistake twice. Without memories, every session starts cold. You re-explain your preferences, reteach your conventions, reconfirm the same architectural decisions. With memories, the context is already there. The session starts with Claude knowing your stack, your preferences, and the constraint you added last Tuesday. Rule: whenever you catch yourself explaining something for the second time, save it to memory instead. Keyboard shortcuts most Claude Code users have never found. Escape cancels a running command mid-execution. Use this when Claude is heading the wrong way and you want to redirect before it goes further. Control-R searches your full session history. Control-L clears the visible terminal without killing the session. Tab auto-completes file paths and command names. Shift-Enter submits a multi-line message. These are all documented in .claude/keybindings.json, and everyone is remappable. The escape behavior alone, stopping Claude mid-task without losing context, is worth knowing the first day you use Claude Code. MCP Model Context Protocol is how you give Claude access to external systems. A database, your calendar, your email, a design tool, a web browser. Each integration is an MCP server that exposes tools Claude can call. You add servers in the Claude Code settings, and they appear as available tools in every session. Instead of copying data from one system into Claude, Claude reads it directly. Instead of describing your database schema in a prompt, Claude queries it. The marketplace at Claude.ai has official integrations for Google Drive, Gmail, GitHub, and others. MCP is an open standard. Any team can build a server for their internal tools. 5 features in the advanced layer. Plan mode. Before any major change, Claude drafts a plan and waits for your approval before writing code. Use it for anything touching more than 3 files. /Doctor runs a health check on your Claude Code installation, flags misconfigured servers and stale auth tokens. Run it when something breaks before assuming the problem is in your code. Permission modes. Control exactly which tools run automatically and which need your approval. Allow-list the safe ones, require confirmation for anything destructive. Agent mode. Extended autonomous sessions where Claude completes a multi-step task end-to-end. And extended thinking, deep reasoning for the problems where Sonnet gives you a shallow answer. 3 mistakes that waste the most time. First, no CLAUDE.md. Every session starts cold. You re-explain your stack, your conventions, your constraints. Fix, run /init, edit the output, add the forbidden list. Second, one model for everything. Opus on every prompt is 10 times more expensive and slower than Haiku on tasks it handles equally well. Fix, Haiku for speed, Sonnet for code, Opus for depth. Third, treating first output as final. Every Claude response is a draft. What did you assume about the auth layer? 10 seconds, better result every time. These 3 mistakes compound. A cold session, wrong model, no pushback, the worst possible outcome from a capable tool. The 27 in 40 seconds. Junior dev mindset. /compact at 60%, /clear at 80, /init. Claude.md, forbidden list, conventions, commands, tone, keep it updated. Self-verification, build, verify, confirm, ship, custom skills, /commands, hooks, sub-agents, worktrees, Haiku for speed, Sonnet for code, Opus for depth, /fast. Link don't paste. Challenge first output. Kill drift. Screenshots, memory controls, keyboard shortcuts, MCP servers, plan mode, /doctor, permission allow lists, agent mode, extended thinking, 27 features. Save this. Pick the one you're not using and run it on your next task. Comment which one. I read everyone.